Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today I will be reviewing Dior's Sauvage Eau De Parfum. They throw them at you whenever you go to their stands, the Dior stands, but I do have the Eau de Toilette still. I purchased this one 2015, might have been beginning of 2016, so fairly after its launch. This is the original formulation, and as you can see, I've used very little of it. So that's why it did not warrant a new purchase for me as of yet. But let's see. I will try it on and then we're going to figure it out. You should check out my review of Sauvage Eau de Toilette if you wish to know more about what I think about Sauvage in general. So definitely be sure to check that review out, and the link is in the in the description box down below, but also at the end of this video. And it is important to see that review because I talk about the concept of masculinity as perceived in 2015 and how that translates into perfume form. And we also talk about gender in general in fragrances and what does it mean. This was classified by me as the douchebag fragrance. But don't immediately judge by the negativity of the connotation. There is a story behind that. But let's test out our 1 milliliter sample, because yes, they do give us only 1 ml as samples. I'm going to spray it here, and then we're going to do the Eau de Toilette there. So we're also going to compare. Let me move this away. Okay, is there anything in here? Okay, there it is. The Eau de Parfum. And we're going to do Eau de Toilette here. Okay. So, as of now, for some reason, the Eau de Toilette is more peppery slash lavendery, but like lavender oily, and the Eau de Parfum is more mellow, but also very much lavender without so much of the, maybe it's the ambroxan, which this one is so popular for. Here we smell it out immediately. It bites, but it's a peppery type of bite. So, you know, there's like 3 types of different peppers in here. The Eau de Parfum, you could see the bottle also drew it a bit warmer. The bottle has a different paint job done to it. There's this kind of light orangey, peachy hue at the bottom of the bottle as it fades into the dark blue. Here we have the transparency fading into the dark blue, night blue of the desert. The Eau de Parfum is more tamed. Now, let's read briefly, but also reminiscence of some incensey hue in there, which is attracting me at the moment, but let's see where it's going to head. The composition keeps some of the notes from the original Eau de Toilette, like bergamot, the Sichuan pepper, lavender, and ambroxan, and enriches them with spices and warm oriental tones of star anise, nutmeg, and the Papua vanilla. So the star anise, nutmeg, and the Papua vanilla were not present in the Eau de Toilette. In fact, if we quickly revisit the notes of the Eau de Toilette, we get in the top notes Calabrian bergamot and pepper, middle notes pink pepper, ginger, elemi, the Sichuan pepper, lavender, and geranium. And then we get patchouli also in the mid notes, as well as vetiver in the mid notes. Ambroxan being in the base notes, together with labdanum and cedarwood. So this is the Eau de Toilette. The Eau de Parfum gives us more simplicity. We still have bergamot in the top notes. Then we got the nutmeg, the star anise, the Sichuan pepper, and lavender in the mid notes, ambroxan, and the vanilla in the base notes. So it's a more simplified construction. I guess it's experimenting more in the direction of warmer hues. So this one was released in 2015. This one is in 2018. We have 3 years distance between them. And Dior introduces the new edition of Dior Sauvage, originally launched in 2015 in the new Eau De Parfum interpretation. Dior's in-house perfumer François Demachy imagines the Eau De Parfum as revealing new facets of Sauvage. The composition with Oriental and vanilla facets is described as enveloping, suave, mysterious, and sensual. I'm not saying this one wasn't already sensual enough, the Eau de Toilette, but it punches you. It's more crude. It's more raw. It's more chemical. It also almost smells like, like a particular type of wintergreen / licorice candy that you could get right before Halloween. There's a hint of that in the top notes. While this one, the Eau de Parfum, is more sophisticated, more soft. It's almost like something that is more smoky. There's a smoky sage touch to this one, which is not listed at all in the ingredients, but I sense it out very clearly. And because it's less scratchy, this one to me is lighter than the Eau de Toilette. It's bizarre. It shows less character. You know what? Also very interesting, because I reviewed Sauvage before. I reviewed Thierry Mugler's Aura. And that's, now that I'm kind of revisiting this one, it has a hint of the first Aura, the Eau de Parfum Aura released by Thierry Mugler. There's that wintergreeny, pepperminty / licoricey note in there, which gives this one a lot of character, a lot of artificial character. Yes, it's a very, very chemical and artificial fragrance, but the Eau de Parfum doesn't have that anymore. The Eau de Parfum is more tamed. It's more like a shower gel version of this one. It's as if this one received criticisms and hence became toned down. Now, why do they call this concentration Eau de Parfum if they do not state openly the amount of alcohol as opposed to the amount of water or essential oils used in there? We do not know. I guess legally they're not obliged to. Is this a higher concentration of extracts? Perhaps. Perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. It's definitely a detraction because they did take away certain elements that are in here in favor of others. The star anise in the Eau de Parfum is not that overpowering. And I don't know where exactly this incensey hue sneaks in, but it does sneak in and I do like it. While here, the Ambroxan is punching us. It's like giving us almost an illusion of a 80s / 90s type of vibe, saying, look at me, I'm intense, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm going to enter the room before you enter the room, and it's going to be constantly like that, and I'm not really going to develop on your skin, and there's not going to be much of an evolution from the opening notes to the bottom notes. I will be strong till the bitter end with huge shoulder pads. The Eau de Parfum has aged a bit. The Eau de Parfum has grown. It's 3 years older. You could almost classify it like dog years, you know. 1 human year is 7 years in dog years, so Sauvage Eau de Parfum comes out 3 years practically after the Eau de Toilette, so that's 3 times 7. Still very young for a fragrance. Not much of an age difference there, 21 years, but let's just say the 21-year-old Sauvage as opposed to the 1 to 7-year-old Eau de Toilette version of itself is more mature. It doesn't need to scream so much. It's more aware of the imprint and footprint that it has left behind when it was first launched on the market as Eau de Toilette, and now it's kind of heading towards a more tamed, resolute, and perhaps at peace with itself version of itself. It has hints of Fahrenheit, the pure parfum. And I'm not saying that it smells like Fahrenheit parfum, but the way that Demachy, and this is something I've noticed him doing because I also have, by the way, you can check out the review that I made, the video review on my YouTube channel of Fahrenheit Parfum, also available on my channel, as well as the review of Dior Homme Parfum, the pure perfume of Dior Homme. So having those fragrances as well, I'm noticing a pattern here. And I know that this is Dior de Parfum. By the way, I will be reviewing the pure perfume of Sauvage as well, so stay tuned for that. That's coming up too. But so I am aware that this is not the pure parfum here, but nevertheless, there's a tendency that I'm noticing in the pattern, how he works. And it's a particular type of vanilla that he loves to deal with. And it's a type of vanilla that comes out very strong in Fahrenheit's Parfum, a little bit less strong in Dior Homme's Parfum, but that's just because Dior Homme's Parfum is so woodsy. All of those woods cover up that vanilla and don't let it really come through as much as it does in Fahrenheit Parfum. Here, it comes through more. And you know how you can smell it out? You can smell it out so by inhaling the smell off your arm, and then when you exhale, you know the smell, the memory of the smell, kind of the olfactive part of the smell, as you're exhaling, the perfume kind of re-amps itself inside of your mouth and all of the olfactory crevices of your head, and you have an after smell, it's like an after wave. So for example, you can envision it like this visually. When waves hit the shore, what happens is they cover the beach, and then you have that full foamy effect of the water and the salt and everything, but then they retract, and as they retract, they leave a trace, and that trace has also a particular quality to it. So you can envision inhaling the smell as the wave covering you. When you exhale, the wave retracts and goes back into the ocean, and what is left over is also a residue, a memory imprint of that smell. So when you exhale is when you get that memory of the type of vanilla from Fahrenheit Parfum. And yeah, it's very much that exact same 2-3 notes combined together. It's his trick. I have the feeling it's Demachy's thing. It's his shtick. It's what he does with these fragrances, and he did that with Fahrenheit. And it's back here in Sauvage, and I don't mind it. This is one of the reasons why I love Fahrenheit, by the way. And I'm happy that it's here as well. I wonder if he did something similar with the pure perfume of Sauvage. So I'm very much looking forward to trying that out as well. The Eau de Parfum is less of a douchebag than the Eau de Toilette is, and I do state that fragrances to me are all genderless. Placing a gender on fragrances is just marketing ploys and strategies to sell more products to targeted audiences that have already been led and taught to believe that they have to be grouped into a certain group, or also gender group or marketing group. And so they feel more comfortable that way buying something. It's as if they legitimize a purchase because the brand tells them, it's okay, this is labeled for men, so you're allowed to buy it. Shady, but that's how these companies work. So in any case, this one is softer. It's less scratchy and less screechy, which means it's even more easy to pull off on any gender, definitely. If you do believe that male fragrances have to have overdose of pepper, of the ambroxan, of all of those ingredients that are deemed acidy, bitey, hot, spicy. If you think that those are ingredients only for men, then of course you're going to think that Sauvage is a very masculine type of fragrance. But the thing is, if you slightly alter the adjectives describing certain ingredients, you would obtain the same for women. I mean, you could say a spicy floral as a female fragrance. Poison, by Christian Dior, which was targeted to women, has a very similar base concept of composition as the Sauvage. We're not talking about the ambroxan and the individual ingredients, but we're talking rather about the intensity and strength. The opoponax in Poison is so powerful, but it's an incense. It's an incense that we also very often have in male perfumery. There's a lot of spices in Poison, and in fact, the biggest marketing strategy for Sauvage Eau De Parfum is spices. They say that they've added more spices. They've created a more spicy Oriental feel to Sauvage, which is exactly what Poison is. They just put it in a different way. They choose adjectives that in the 80s in particular, 86, 87, were more prone to appeal to the powerhouse working women of the 80s. But it all kind of mixes and matches, and it all lands at the same point. Sauvage could have been labeled a poison flanker if it had maybe a bit less of the ambroxan and a bit more amber, or if they just listed, even though they don't have to really overdose it with rose, but had they just listed a bit of rose, they could have said, oh, here, this is a Poison Sauvage flanker, done. And it would have passed. Nobody would have complained. But it is targeted to men. It's a hyper male fragrance, and it's selling very well. So Dior is riding that wave. Hence, we have Sauvage Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum, the pure parfum, and then we have the cologne. What was the other fourth concentration of it? The water version. The Eau de Parfum is really not bad, but it's just quite plain and mushy. It mushes all up. It kind of heats itself up, but then it cools down because all the ingredients clash together at the same time, and then they just kind of neutralize themselves. So you don't get to sense out and smell out each and every ingredient separately, but rather you get a homogenized mass of a certain type of cooling warmth. And there the image is very, I think, spot on. It's as if we are in the desert and the sun is, this looks like the sun is rising, but to me it's more like it's setting. It's more of a red, warmer hue there. The sun is setting and the last ray of light hits that desert before it's nighttime and before all the heat of the day is gone, and then the cold of the desert night kicks in. So we are riding that wave between the hot and the cold, and it's right there borderline between the two, and it's because it's all mushy, all of the ingredients are mushed together, you get whiffs of cool and whiffs of warm at the same time. It's not bad. It's just I guess at the end of the day, this fragrance will definitely remain one of those classic, typical fragrances of the 10s, you know, the second half of the 10s epoch, from 2015 to 2019 when the Parfum was launched. So we have like almost 4 years, but almost 4.5 years of Sauvage dominating the male market of perfumery. And that tells us a lot. Whether or not we like this fragrance is another issue. But what this tells us is that the times we live in are all mushed up together. It's a mess. From social media to actual media, television, the news, politics. We're bombarded with information, so much so that there's not much room left in our attention spans for all of it. So either everything just mashes up together, or we become extremely selective, almost to a degree of becoming autistic in selecting the type of information we wish to allow in. And the people that do decide to go that route, they end up literally blocking off almost everything else and just following that one route. The rest of the people are just constantly fed so much information, and a lot of that information is useless and unnecessary for their own growth and development. So Sauvage is very symbolic of that. in particular, I mean, I guess in all of its facets, we're still going to get to the pure perfume, obviously, in another video, but what I've been smelling until now, it's an indicator of why does a fragrance like this fit and click so well with its audience? Why do people buy it so much? Because it deciphered the times. And again, whether or not you like how it smells, it's irrelevant. You can apply the same concept of judgment to the times we live in. Are you happy or not happy with the political situation we're in? Are you happy or not happy with the economical situation we're in? Are you happy or not happy with the level of the cultural level of the world today, or of the first world countries, or whatever world countries? You might be, you might not be, but you can't deny the fact that this one is a bestseller. A lot of other fragrance houses, big, famous fragrance houses, also invest millions and billions in promoting their products. But not all their products manage to hit the vein of the times, the core of the times, as much as Sauvage did. And the 10s are never going to go down in history as being these amazing times, neither in fashion terms, nor in, unfortunately, nor in perfume terms. Also, unfortunately, neither in political or economical terms. They're going to go down in history as and I'm talking about this decade so intensely in most of my videos lately because we are coming to an end of a decade. It's 2019. So next year, the 20s begin. In a couple of months, in a couple of weeks actually, the 20s will begin and this decade will be over. So it's a very symbolic thing to deal with a fragrance like this that so strongly represented the second half of a decade, but nevertheless, the entire decade. Would I be purchasing a bigger bottle of this one? You know, out of historical referential historical point of view, I probably will be purchasing this one as well as the pure perfume, just because Dior and also Demachy have this really nasty tendency of reformulating everything once it's out. They either discontinue something, or a year or two in, they just reformulate it because they think it's going to sell better, or because they find other ingredients that are cheaper than the ones they already had for the launch. And so there's this tendency that Dior has of just butchering its products. And historically speaking, I like to have pieces like these in my collection out of analytical purposes, so that I can understand if I'll be still alive in 10 or 20 years, I could look back, smell this, and remember and revisit the times that we lived in now. And this is the power of fragrances. I always say perfumes are keys. They unlock doors. You can travel through time with fragrances. I just reviewed the other day Balenciaga's 1971 fragrance, HOMME. Also be sure to check that one out. The link is also in the description box under this video. HOMME is a very particular fragrance from the 70s, and it describes the time. When you smell it, you're brought back immediately into the 70s. Even though you weren't maybe born in the 70s, you didn't exist still in the 70s, still, it's an imprint of a time through a smell. And that's what Sauvage will be in 10 years' time, if the world still exists then. But it is important to acknowledge the presence and the existence of such a smell in today's time while we are living it, actually. Because, you know, as YouTube blossomed and bloomed and all these reviews started popping up and people start filming and everybody could, you know, just film whatever they want and give their opinions on whatever they want, we've discovered certain fragrances from the past that don't exist anymore, and you're hunting them down, you're trying to find a vintage version, a pre-reformulation version, and all those problems arise, and you start analyzing the past. And we sometimes tend to forget that we have the present as well. And this is our present, whether we like it or not. This is one of the best sellers of our time. And I find it fascinating to acknowledge it now as it is actual, rather than discovering it 20 years from now. And just from that, out of that reason alone, I think it's worthy of mention and some sort of analysis. Again, to end it, I will say the Eau De Parfum is not going out at night. The Sauvage is. Sauvage Eau de Toilette is going out at night. The Sauvage Eau de Toilette enjoys a night out in clubs. In a lot of parts of the world, you can still smoke, you could still drink. There's a lot of smells where people are crowded. And so this one cuts through there. It is present no matter how much you try to cover it up with other smells. The Eau De Parfum doesn't. This one would not last. This one is too soft and too tamed for that. Sauvage Eau de Toilette is the douchebag because it comes, it takes, it consumes, and then it leaves. And it actually leaves by kind of making you feel like you should be grateful for having had it. That's kind of the arrogance that this one has. The Eau De Parfum is more soft. It actually asks you questions as well. It doesn't just take what it wants, but there's more of an interaction going on here than here. This one is less arrogant. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this review, please do thumb it up and let me know what you think about Sauvage Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum. Why not also the Pure Parfum if you want, in the comment section down below. Also consider subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Super Dacob all spelled together. I'm also on Patreon, and I would like to thank my patrons for pledging and supporting the channel. Thanks to you guys, the channel lives on. Until I see you next time in one of my future videos, don't ever forget to never give up on love. See you soon. Take care. Bye.